Well, welcome back to Aarhus for the 49er European Championships. Marcus, we're into another race, just coming up to the start.
Yep, boats are closing into that starting line. We can see the orange flag, that marks the starting line in the foreground, and in the background we can see the starting vessel. Nice lineup right now. And it's just a few seconds to go, and off they go. Italian boat number 22, most leeward. That is, help me out here, guys.
It's Angelella and Zucchetti.
Yep.
They got the most left-hand start, the one that we've been talking about a little bit in earlier races. But it looks like the pin end, the left-hand end, wasn't quite so fancy this time round. It looks like there's a bit more congestion up the right-hand side of the course, and maybe they fancy the wind further out to sea.
It's quite a short line, and it's actually the fleet is spread out over that line. Everyone tries to start in the first row, of course, and there's not enough space, so they line up really well. There wasn't any bunches on either the left or the right hand side, and at the moment maybe the boat's starting to windward come out a little bit better. They're going a little bit higher.
At least these guys are in clear air. These are the guys that came off the left-hand end of the start line. They've got lots of clear air. They do have to hope that things are going to go nicely for them on the left-hand side. But
it's a dramatic picture. If I look at my SAP analytics, Burling and Tuke are pulling out in the middle. They're in the lead at the moment. Let's shift to top view and zoom out a little bit here, and we can see the boats on the left-hand side going really
much
deep,
higher track.
and on the right-hand side, Burling and Tuke going really high.
Just tell us why. Why is that right-hand group looking so strong?
Well, there's a wind shift on that right side. There's probably a gust that lifted them. That's going away now. We can see that how Burling and Tuke are taking a left-hand turn. It's probably 15 to 20 degrees that they're being shifted there. And let's zoom back out a little bit. And
well, they've gone down a lot on their angle, Burling and Tuke, but the damage has been done to the boats on the left already. So even though their angle is low now, it's still enough for Burling and Tuke to actually take and retain that early lead, and that's how much it's gone down for them, because they've now tacked.
And we can see on the left-hand side, the boats are now going high, and they're closing in. There's one boat on the left-hand side, which is looking quite good. Let's find out who that is. That's the French boat, Dortoli. Similar boats up on top already again as in the race before. Great start by Burling and Tuke, and Julian Dortoli coming in high. Heil Plösel back in on the upwind. He didn't finish well on in the last race. He was up there in the beginning but fell back.
And suddenly the boats on the left-hand side, Angelella's and Zucchetti, the Italian boat, not doing so badly on the left. Here's the Austrian team, 84. Just looking up who we are seeing, because there's a couple of Austrians in there.
They're on the far left, but they're going well at the moment. They've taken the lead.
This is Delacarth and Resch. They won Kiel Week last week, and they've come second in the World Championships in the past. So a class act, and looking very, very nice at the moment.
Also, just missed a medal by one place at the London Olympics, coming fourth. So definitely a team to watch, and what they're doing at the moment is watch the course. You can see his crew, Nico Resch, scanning the course. They're going good pace at the moment. They're going high and fast towards that windward mark, but we should remember they're really close to that ley line. So they're out of options. It's going to be very interesting to see whether they can actually make it up here. So far, when we saw boats that far left, they didn't make it up into the gate.
Pretty soft breeze on the course compared with what we've seen earlier in the day. They're still going impressively fast upwind and looking like they're fully powered, but there's going to be some patches up here as they get to the top windward marks. But it's looking very nice for the Delacarth and Resch on the left-hand side. They've really moved ahead, and if things stay the way they are, they should be first round.
I'm enjoying my godlike top view on the race course here, and I can see that Burling and Tuke are luffing up again and going very fast and high, and the Austrian boat just about hanging in there. They're still in the lead, but will they make it? Will they actually be able to pull through? You can see they're softening up now. They've got to go in even, and they've got a long way to go.
So when you come all the way to the ley line, Marcus, really, if the wind shift goes against you, you've got nowhere to go.
No, you're out of options. Geometrically, you're just getting extra distance. So if the wind is unstable, you don't want to be there too early because you're out of option. And that's precisely what's happening now. You can see, well, they're actually still pulling through. They can pull through. They don't get this massive header that could throw them.
It's lovely to watch that crew work, isn't it? It's a very difficult set of conditions to sail a boat in. Really easy to let the boat come in over the top of you, but they're just bending their legs and just getting across everybody. So they're just holding on, but they probably have an extra tack to do before they get to the top mark.
My gut feeling is they're out of phase. They're currently on the low leg, and I wouldn't be surprised if the boats who come in from the left side can get a lift up to the windward gate. At the moment, that's precisely what's happening. The Austrians are getting lifted. If the other ones that just passed them are getting lifted as well, they'll lose their lead.
The Austrian seemed very happy to make the cross, though, didn't he? And then, he's got that option of coming in on starboard when he does his final approach, as they just tack for the top mark. We've got that's Burling just behind him. But it looks, when I look out, that the ley line to the top mark is a beautiful ley line choice by Delacarth.
Yeah, it looks like they got a good breeze to carry them into this mark as well, so they should still come in ahead. But they're going for the other mark, so they're tacking for the right-hand mark as we look upwind, the one top of picture. And they will round ahead, but with the Spanish not too far behind if the Spanish can just get across the Italian boat. But no, the Spanish have decided they're going to tack round the opposite mark. And there we see the Austrians. They've hoisted their Jenica with the Austrian colours of their flag on their Jenica, and they're off and away. Will they be able to extend in the way that we've seen others who have been able to today? There goes the Spanish sail, the blue sail going up there, and a jibe set by the French boat, who did very well in the previous race, so they're showing some form in these conditions.
I'm surprised the Austrians split away like that. They're heading towards an area with really glassy water. Doesn't look super strong out there, and they're pulling away from the fleet. And there's a gust hitting just at the windward mark. We see a boat capsizing. It's just out of picture on the left-hand side. Austrians jibing now. We can see them top of picture. That's the leading boat. Second boat at the moment, the Spanish, not in the picture. They've moved out on the right-hand side. Austrians still in the lead.
There's that capsized boat in the middle of picture with the spinnaker up, so that was soon after they hoisted the Jenica, I'm pretty sure.
So in terms of the capsized boat, what are the rules regarding other boats coming to a boat that's disabled? In terms of it as an obstruction, Andy?
It's the same as if it was a rock. So you have to, you can ask for water on a capsized boat. If you're on a collision course with a capsized boat, you can ask for avoidance. You can ask for room to avoid that boat.
Certainly the rules of the game play a big part in terms of tactically how you use the rules to your advantage, whether it's obstruction, whether it's the mark rounding rules. So if young sailors are watching it, have a good understanding of the rules, and more importantly, how to apply the rules tactically. That's a real key component, Marcus, isn't it, in terms of applying the rules to the racetrack?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be safe, and the rule book's quite thick, so you got to study it. You got to be well aware of what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And it's quite complicated, and there is some grey areas.
The interpretations are the key, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some grey areas that you need to play to your advantage.
Already big gaps going round the first mark. These guys in picture are well ahead, and it looked risky for them, Marcus, earlier on in the leg. It looked like they were heading for zero wind, but they jibed in time, and they've actually consolidated their lead by the look of it.
Something I really like is the spinnakers, and the Austrians have got it, are in their national colours. It's almost like the spinnaker or the Jenica looks like your flag. I know it's expensive to make, but I really think that's an innovation that I love from the Olympics, and maybe it's something for the class.
Yeah, it's certainly a residue from the Olympics. The spinnakers we see here, the flag spinnakers, they've all been used at the Olympics, and that was last year. So they still, those spinnakers still live. You know, usually you can only use it for half a season or a season, then it's worn.
Already at the bottom mark, first boat's round, and it's the black spinnaker from, I guess that's Burling coming in there. It looks to be coming in pretty tight to me, a little bit overlaid. Andy?
Yes, he seems to do that. He seems to come in very pressed and with a lot of power in the sail. But you need great boat handling if you're going to try that. If you're going to test yourself out on the edges of the course. But they seem to have great boat handling, because that was a very difficult manoeuvre, executed very nicely by the Kiwis, who are in second place. And as you were saying, Peter, you spoke to those Kiwis earlier today, and they were feeling very comfortable about racing in these kind of conditions. What Peter Burling compared to the Noth course at Weymouth last year in the Olympics, where they were second.
Well, it's a bit like bread and butter if from where he has come from. But the contra to that is when it's light and fluky and probably big waves, he doesn't feel as comfortable. So again, if you can get into conditions that you feel very comfortable with, you really got to milk it for all it is, because you might turn up tomorrow morning, condition change.
Here's the split after the leeward gate. We see Nico Delacarth and Nicolas Resch heading out to the right-hand side, followed by Burling and Tuke on also in second place, and only two boats heading out to the left side that has paid so handsomely for the Austrians on the first upwind leg, but they seem to be on an entirely different plan right now.
Yes, earlier in the day with the FXs, we saw this side of the course, the left-hand side of the course, used very much more, with a lot of the girl sailors heading inshore in the afternoon in slightly different conditions. It seems like generally they're favouring, the boys are favouring the out-to-sea right-hand side of the course. But as you just said, that we saw the left-hand side favour the current race leader, and interestingly, they're not going for the same tactic second time up the course. They've decided to have a go up the other side of the course.
You know, up until today, the racetrack, the closest racetrack, has been a little bit further out to sea. Marcus, in terms of how many races do you think it takes to really figure out, well, you know, left's good at the bottom or right's good at the bottom, just the geographic nature of the course, because that's quite a big deal. How many races do you think it takes you to figure that out?
Well, it'll take me a couple more because I haven't figured it out yet. It's not quite clear. There's a pattern
developing here, isn't there?
Well, it's not that obvious, I believe. I mean, we saw the Austrians coming in from the left on the last one, and I was talking about that side being risky. Now he's heading off to the right again. Generally, I'd say the right is more of the safe side. It's more risky on the left side. But you know, until it's not, it's it's not that easy.
So on the first beat, Delacarth, a little bit of a risk, but he got a reward.
Yeah, absolutely. But maybe a little bit too much risk. I like the way the guys from New Zealand are sailing. They're more playing the middle, and they're happy to be up there, third, fourth, fifth place. They don't need to be in the lead, and then they can take it from there.
Here's our race leader.
Beautifully sailed, isn't it, Marcus?
Yeah, very flat, very low in the trapeze. The lower you get, the more leverage you get, but also you get into that zone just above the water where you have less air friction because the more air is moving slow anyway. So that's where you want to be. But what happens to you more easily is that you fall in the water and then you generate serious drag.
Certainly that whole debate and discussion about hydrodynamic, aerodynamic drag. You hear the America's Cup guys talk about parasitic drag, whatever that means. It's a bit above my head, Andy, that one. But certainly the whole deal of you know, understanding the physics of drag, whether it's in the water or in the air, is such a big deal, isn't it, in the sport?
Yes, it really, really is. I mean, skin-tight suits, the kind of lycra that you wear, Peter, is coming into increasing fashion in this style of racing.
I saw you mincing around in your little white number this morning. Very nice.
I remember at the Olympics in Sydney, the most successful sailor at that time was Chris Nicholson, and then he wore a skin-tight suit on the first day of the Olympics, and the British named it the choker suit because it didn't work at all.
Oh, that's a high price to pay when you wear a suit like that. You wear a sort of kind of thing you might see in Pulp Fiction,
yeah.
and it doesn't actually work for you on the race course
no,
either.
And it certainly didn't. It didn't make the difference.
Chris Nicholson, of course, if he's listening, one of the great 49er sailors. And he's a good bloke as well. And
Definitely.
I think of guys like Adam Beechel, and what a battle that was when you think of the battle between Adam Beechel and Chris Nicholson in their heyday in the 49er class.
Well, I seem to remember it ended up in the law courts.
It did. It got a bit messy towards the end, but
That's how much people care about this stuff.
So here's the Austrians, sort of lonely in the lead. Hard to imagine that we're racing in a 32-boat fleet. They're so far ahead right now.
They're broken free.
Here's the rest of the fleet in the 3D graphics. If we can swing to the right a little bit. Burling and Tuke still in second position.
This is a great day for Burling and Tuke, isn't it?
Absolutely,
So
and I can tell you, with this race, they've now taken over the lead.
Well,
over Dylan Fletcher.
Wow.
No, it's really close. I saw them leading overall when they went around the Leeward Mark. Dylan Fletcher down in 11th, still good enough for the overall lead. But Burling and Tuke now in second position, so they're climbing the ranks more and more.
This top third of the course, we're getting into mid-afternoon, late in the afternoon really, but it really gets tricky and swirly. And I think Burling and Tuke are going to come under the pump here from the French team. But first at the top mark, it will be the Austrian team, Delacath, well in the lead, sailing an impeccable race. And they've sort of broken free from the brunch.
Doing the jibe set, that's almost the standard move today, isn't it? Normally that's that's your second choice maneuver, because it's quite an expensive maneuver and also quite difficult to execute well.
Is it that expensive in a 49er with a prod?
With a bowsprit.
Or bowsprit?
No,
Marcus?
it's not that expensive, but you lose a little bit. A straight set is the quicker option, and if you can avoid the jibe set, you want to. There's a reason why they're jibe setting, and that's because they want to get away from the wind shadow on the right-hand side and pull out to the right side of the course, which, you know, has that pattern. I'd say 60-70% of the time you'd be better off to be
looking
on the
to
right
get in
side.
phase.
Yeah.
Looking to get in phase as quickly as possible. Well,
So here's the Kiwis. They're being followed by the French. You remember, it's these. I think it's these same two boats that were together on one of the previous races where we saw Burling do the jibe set, which he's done here. Is he going to go back again? And has he just done this as a protective move? Probably not. It's probably more likely he's going to carry on that way for a while. So he's just briefly fully stretched there, and
But
he's
nice.
off. He's got a great angle there, hasn't he, Marcus?
Actually, the French are jibing to go with Burling, and Burling's got good breeze at the moment. That looks all right for him, but
The leaders, look at the leaders parked up in the middle at top right of picture.
oh, yes.
Hardly moving,
Big change. So
jibing there, but probably looking over their
Ooh.
shoulders with some level of desperation.
So
yeah, they got really, really soft there. But Burling has to luff up, and Ortoli looking really good at the moment.
So I wonder if anyone else coming around the windward mark would see that and think, you know what, I might just carry on by the shore side.
Which doesn't look bad at the moment.
So
You see Eric Heil closing in on that shore side at the moment. Good breeze for him. That could carry him far down.
So this could be a good gain. Let's keep an eye on Eric Heil, and when we'll look at the tracking a little bit later on maybe and see what kind of gains possibly can be made on the shore side of the course near our commentary position.
just looks to me as though as the afternoon's marching on, the wind is becoming a bit less stable, doesn't it? The holes are getting more prevalent, and you can have a big lead, fall in a hole, and get left.
Yeah, what's probably happening is that we get more heating over the city, and that's we've got rising air, big bags of rising air, and that makes just increases the turbulence and the difference between the lulls and the gusts.
Well, that's the leading three boats there. They're in pretty good wind there. So that on the right-hand side, that's still the Austrians leading. It's the Black Kite in second place, New Zealand. The Blue Kite going away from us, that's the French. And both the Kiwis and the French are having a good day. Simultaneous jibe there from the front two boats. The Austrians defending their position very nicely there.
I'm looking over my shoulder down the course and now onto the tracking, and I can see Heil Plösel charging into the middle of the course. If we can get that image on the 3D graphics, you can see Heil Plösel charging into the middle. That it looks like they're on a roll, and looking downwind, it looks like they're in a nice gust right there. Leading boats have got a nice gust now. Two looking from the studio, we can see it, and that's going to carry them home, I believe. But nice gain for Heil Plösel at some point. Just
Two
before.
nice simo jibes or simultaneous jibes for the leading boat when when Burling really was looking for a bit of leverage, Delacarth did a lovely job to match him. And they've really matched all the way now down. It's like covering downwind, isn't it? They've got the wind coming from forward.
Beautiful to see that dark patch around those boats. That's their little gust that they're using, that they're right into. All the way around those. In further distance, it's not much wind, and they're just jibing right in the middle of the gust.
And jibing in sequence together as well. It's almost like the two boats are linked together.
Oh, and it's another 3-lap course.
Well, we're in for some more excitement. They're down at the bottom mark for the last time. It's a 3-lapper, and it is Austria from New Zealand. And then next we will have the French coming in there. But this is a cracking race.
It is, and some of these guys, like the Spanish, have closed up a little bit. There's Eric Heil. He's made a nice gain in terms of distance, and may well have made a few gains.
Well, he's up in 4th place now, so great downwind for him. He's taking the other mark.
And that's Eric Heil and Plissel coming round this mark. They're the first to choose the left-hand shoreside mark. Let's see how it works out. Most of the leaders going for the right-hand mark going out to sea.
So we're at the 49er Europeans here in Denmark. We're the 3rd race for the Gold Fleet.
That's the leading boat.
Great racing. There's the leading boat. Coming upwind, this will be the final upwind, round the top mark and then down to the finish.
So big split happening right here at the moment. We have got Heil Plösel heading out to the left. It's going to be curious to see whether that is a hunch they're going out onto there or whether they see something on the left side. But it's certainly a big split at the moment.
And we're seeing another very good race from Burling and Tuke. How would that leave them standing now, Marcus?
That would actually, I've seen before in that race, would put them in first place with 2 points to Dylan Fletcher, who's not having a great race. He's down in 18th place, so amazing day really for Burling and Tuke with a 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and now a 2nd place again. And the battle is not over between the Austrians and Peter Burling and Blair Tuke, and it's going to be let's just follow them going on the upwind and see whether Peter Burling can catch up.
On the right-hand side, there's the German team, Eric Heil and Plösel. Thomas Plösel. And that looks like the Irish boat in the middle of the picture.
Yeah, that's the first time we've seen them in the mix, the Irish team. Andy, where are they on our list as we look through? Here we go. It's
they're some way down the pack at the moment, I think, aren't they?
27th overall, Seaton.
Ryan Seaton and Matt McGovern.
They're having a good one in this one. In fact, it almost looks to me as though the left-hand side, looking up the course, has got quite good. So that group that came across, which is over to the left-hand side, they're now in the middle of the course.
Marcus, did you overlap in your time in the 49er with these guys from Austria?
Yeah, we did, because we thought that the closer you stand together, the less windage you have. And yeah, we were always paranoid about reducing windage.
So you talk about aerodynamic windage.
Yeah.
So crew alignment.
So the longer, I figured the longer the space between the crew and the helmsman, the more windage you would get. So that's the reason why we stood together. And I also thought it was more stable on the boat.
Okay.
I think we've seen quite a big change here. That the leading 2 boats, to me, have been overtaken by a group that came up the left-hand side. Perhaps we go to your animation if we can.
Yeah, let's take a look at the animation, and we see Julian de Ortoli closing in into Nico Delicard, and actually Peter Burling falling back into 3rd place. So that left-hand side wasn't bad after all. I believe that's where Ortoli went through. We can look at it in the replay, but Delicard still safely 1st.
I think that
so it's really closed up, hasn't it? It's not the clear breakout for the top 3 anymore. This is a race of 6 or more now.
Well, what we will see on that last upwind is the leading boats defending, and playing it conservatively and dealing with the or accepting the fact that that can close up the gap. But in the end, you don't want to be ahead by far. You want to be ahead that one place, and that 1 centimeter is required for that, not more than that.
When you've been leading by a massive margin like the Austrians and you find yourself dropping back into the pack, do you think that affects your psychology in terms of, you talked about sailing in the now earlier, Marcus, and always sailing in the moment. Is it not quite difficult to hang on to the fact that you were leading by a massive margin and you got it wrong and now you're falling back into the pack?
But that's the difference between the pros and I wouldn't say amateurs, but the people who consistently do well, what they can do is from 1 second to another, they can just switch out that negative thought and get back into what they're really doing, because it doesn't help to ruminize about it.
Real classic example for me here of the teams that are being consistent. They don't take the big hit, so they don't take the big loss. But they're not looking for the king hit in terms of their tactical decision making.
So looking at Peter Burling at the moment and seeing that he's dropped back to third, he's probably not bothered, you know, because yes, someone has passed him, Otoli went to the left, but he played it safely, and he can live with the fact to lose 1 point. In the overall scheme, that's nothing.
And the Austrians sailing very aggressively there, because they've taken right on top of the French, or they did their best to do so, but I'm not sure they've succeeded in that. And if they'd have gone on a little bit further, they might have just got round this windward mark in one go. So almost elements of match racing creeping in to the way that the Austrians are sailing. They're sailing up towards our commentary position on this side, and there's a good patch of breeze here.
And that's the 2 leading boats, and the Austrians are tacking away. I think they've overstood the mark. No, they haven't. They actually let the French go, and it's going to be a very tight mark rounding between these 2 boats. What do you think? Who's going to go first?
I think it'll be the Austrians. I think they're going to make the right-hand mark. As I say that, they have a near teabagging incident.
No. We're going to go for a split. One boat's going to go around the left, one's going to go around the right.
All right, but I say the Austrians are still leading by a whisker.
So they round simultaneously. That's going to be a great final downwind. Great.
More importantly, who's got the pressure?
So who's got the pressure?
Look, the Austrians jibe straight away. So
the French are looking good. Nice big puff right here. That looks great for them. Bad news for the Austrians.
It looks like the French are just about to come into a massive gust in the next 10 seconds. That could drive them down over the top of the Austrians.
And they're jibing. They want to close up to the Austrians. Austrians getting the gust now. Now they're bearing away. They're safe, probably. It looks like they're safe. Can they cross? I think they can.
So we're looking at this cross, and it's still Austria ahead as they go down the final leg, down to the finish.
Now, I'm surprised the French let them get out to that side of them. I mean, maybe we're seeing things better from up here, from our privileged position up above the water, but I see really nice breeze on the side of the course where the Austrians are heading now. So I'm surprised the French handed them that side of the course.
Yeah, there's a nice bend down there for the red spinnaker, isn't it? You just look at the difference in angle.
I think that was a mistake by the French. But again, they're at sea level, we're up high, so we get to see the gusts maybe better than they do.
And you like bashing the French?
That hadn't even occurred to me. Hadn't even occurred to me, Marcus. It's the Germans we like to bash.
All right.
I've met some good liars in my life, and you're not one of them.
Oh, look at the gust
Leading
the
3
Austrians
boats.
are in. Nice, big, dark gust the Austrians are in, but behind that, it's glassy, so they don't want to go out too far. They might be stuck there. That's why they're jibing. They're in the wind. They're in the breeze. What are the French doing?
Can they get across the French? Looks like they will.
They'll safely.
Yeah, easily.
Nice angle, but it's looking a little bit light ahead of them. Marcus, the speed they're going, can they run out of the gust, or will they ride that one to the finish?
Yeah, well, that sorts itself out, because as they slow down, the gust keeps catching up, so they'll stay in front of the gust, and they'll be all right.
Intriguing race. This is race 3 of today for the 49er class, Gold Fleet. And it's been Austria, France,
I like
New
the
Zealand.
move of the Austrian guys at the windward
Very
gate,
nice.
because what they did is they didn't overact. They just continued to that mark because it was so easy to get it, and didn't do too much maneuvers up there at the windward gate, but they were splitting away doing that, and that was a certain risk, but they were happy to take that risk. And here it is. That's their race win.
Well done to them.
Well done to them.
But I despite the fact that you'll say I'm saying it for other reasons, I still think the French made a mistake. I think they
That's
had
okay.
So what you would have liked,
I believe you.
Andy, what you would have liked to have seen them jibe to windward of the Austrians when they came to that cross?
I think there was more to be had if they'd have carried on a little bit longer out to the right-hand side. And yes, I don't think they should have let the Austrians change sides with them. I think they should have protected their side of the course.
Good race for the Austrians on what has so far for them been not a very good day. They're down in 11th positions overall, and their scores today were 23 and 14, and good for them to
They took
put
their
in a
chance,
race win.
didn't they? Off the line, they came to the left, they took a little bit of leverage, took a bit of a risk, and then held on to win the race 3 today. So that's race 5 overall.
And we didn't talk much about the Kiwis towards the end of that race, but they were just sitting comfortably in 3rd position behind the two that we were talking about, the Austrians and the French. So 3rd, still a great result for them. Their scores in the last 4 races, 3, 2, 1, 3.
And that means they're climbing overall to 2nd place. That is this race we're currently seeing right here. And we can have a look at the overall results just in a second. We didn't get a position change. At some point in this race, I saw Peter Burling leading overall. That was when Dylan Fletcher was down in 20th place, but he climbed back up to 4th and dropped back down to 13th. So there were some serious position changes for him, but the 13th place is still good enough for him to be in the lead with 44 points. Peter Burling in 2nd, and Hansen and Borepski in 3rd place. Heil Plössl put in a great race. He finished 4th in that last race and is 5th overall now. Lots of New Zealand flags, lots of British flags, not so many German flags, but I think we all love watching this racing. I think it's great.
Oh, it's been a great day. I mean, for me, the best of the week. Now, Andy, just before we sign off and wait for the next race, can't wait, I see a drop performances come in now in terms of the points, and that's shuffled it round a little bit. Just explain that. So their worst performance has now actually been dropped. Can you talk us through that one?
Yes, so they've now done 5 races of this phase of the competition, and that means they can discard their worst score. So that's very common in sailing. The idea that if you have a bad accident, a capsize or a collision or something like that, you can drop your worst score. So that's a fairly typical scenario. And in some 49er racing, they sometimes have 2 of their top scores to discard because they have such a long series of races. So that's just an opportunity for people to get rid of that race they really hated.
And you know, now we'll wait. There's going to be another race, which will be brilliant. The conditions are perfect, and we'll just take a short break, and we'll be back with you shortly, probably in about 10 minutes, for the next race in the 49ers.